Welcome back to Mind Power Reality Check. My name is Dirk. You have probably heard terms like quantum jump, vibration, parallel realities, timelines even, in the spiritual world. What do you think? Are these terms just mirroring scientific insights? Are they transcending scientific principles? The ideas sound scientific. And of course they do, they borrow language from physics. But the way they're used isn't quite how physics work. In actual quantum mechanics, a quantum jump means something very specific, like an electron in an atom changing energy levels and releasing light, for example. Maybe you remember this. Maybe you remember this experiment in chemistry or physics, when your teacher dipped a little magnesium stick into a sodium salt and held it into the hot flame of a burning Bunsen burner, and suddenly the flame turned yellow. And this is exactly what a quantum jump is. The heat of the hot flame is just warming up the sodium salt. It's getting hot, the electrons just jumping onto a higher level, onto a higher energy level. This energy level is not really stable, and after a while they just jump back, fall back to a lower status there, and there is one light quant released, and this is the yellow color you will notice. This effect you can see basically everywhere, you know, maybe these bright yellow street lamps. Pretty sure you have seen them. This is the same principle, and that is used for lighting up the streets. So you have quantum jumping all around you for little particles. In the spiritual realm, in the spiritual language, quantum jumping is usually about shifting your mindset or reality, and it's about entering another reality, which is maybe there or which is created. There are several ways to believe in it. But basically, when you're using it in the spiritual language, for most of us, it's a metaphor. And as a metaphor, it can be powerful. The real question here is, does it help? Does it shift your thinking, your actions, your results? Are you getting better with this? And remember, those metaphors shouldn't become a strict rule set for you that you have to obey, that you have to follow like a slave. They should remember you, what you do achieve, or what you do to achieve your goals, and they should remember you that there's different methods to reach them. Just a little manifestation example I did in the past when I was a kid. That's a long time ago, and I think it is one of the first times I came into contact with these principles, maybe, I'm not sure. And so there was a little lottery at school. You could win little plastic animals and things like that, and little gadgets and so on. So what children like, and there was around, I think it was 7, 8, not sure. And there was a little plastic rabbit, and I really liked it, and I wanted to have it. And so I wanted to have it so desperately that I just concentrated on it and said, this would be great if I won this little rabbit there. And actually I did win it. So it was some kind of key event that made me thinking. It could be, of course, it could be completely a coincidence. The likelihood was, I think, 1 to 30. So we had 30 classmates in my class there, approximately, I think. And but in a way, I knew that I would win it. It was some kind of knowing. Did I at this time quantum jump? Don't think so, right? So how did I achieve it? I didn't know anything about manifestation at this time, and nevertheless, I achieved to to get this little rabbit there. And there's other events I experienced during my childhood. I was a little bit older at this time, for example, and one day or the other I hadn't learned for school, and I just went to school, and the teacher wanted to check our learning results, and so he asked one classmate or another classmate and so on, and I didn't want him to pick me. So I just said, oh, maybe I just concentrated on another classmate. Let's call him Peter. So I concentrated on Peter, and well, long story short, Peter was the next that had to answer some questions of the teacher. So what was this? Was this some influencing of the teacher's mind? Was this quantum jumping? Was this just manifestation in a way? You name it. So these principles are always there, regardless of how you call them. And this is a very, very important fact here. So if you call it quantum jumping, if you call it manifestation, if you call it maybe influencing somebody's mind, these principles seem to be around us all the time, and they are just waiting for us to leverage them. Science also sometimes accepts what it doesn't fully understand. Not only sometimes, because science is about getting knowledge about the real world, getting knowledge about reality. So if I would exclude everything that I cannot fully understand, I think I wouldn't have much to do research on. So, for example, lately, dark matter, dark energy, we talked about this in a former video of mine. We don't know what they are, but we have to assume they are there. We cannot see them, we cannot feel them, but they have to be there. And also science changes. 70 to 90% of scientific knowledge changed over time. It had been altered or replaced by other and new theories over the span of the last 100 years. So 70 to 90%, that's quite a bit. So there's always some getting better, some adapting theories and so on. And also the quantum mechanics, for example, is also invented because scientists saw that the behavior of little particles didn't follow the Newton mechanic. So they had to invent the quantum mechanics then at this time. So life stays interesting. And there's always new ideas coming, new ways to look at things. But on the other hand, this does not mean that if somebody is saying or is telling you something on social media, or maybe a friend of yours telling you something, that he can rightfully claim that his theory is also true just because science is adapting their theories now and then, because there has to be some kind of evidence, there has to be some reason to adapt the theories, and if somebody is telling you something, you should ask. If it sounds unbelievable, you should ask. And only just because you would like to believe it, because it sounds too good to be true, unfortunately you have to say sometimes it is too good to be true, because it's plain, it's just not right, even if everybody would like to have it in this case. So don't believe things just because you want to believe them. You are doing no favor to yourself in this case. Ask questions. Is there evidence? Is there statistics? Sometimes there is not much evidence, but is there statistic? Have other people tried it and successfully used it? Some kind of new techniques, manifestation techniques, and so on. Of course, there are many realms that are very complicated. There's not much research. And so we have to stick to some statistical facts, and we have to stick to other people, for example, just empirical call it evidence from other people. And the more empirical evidence is around, the more you could believe things like that. So spiritual practices are similar. We may not understand how they work, but if they lead to clarity or a change, it's real. If they work for you and if you see results, if you use them successful, that's real. That's reality. So instead of pretending some ideas are backed by physics, just let's admit it's symbolic. It's about shifting you, not bending atoms. I'm just talking of this quantum jumping. Especially when some teachings use scientific ideas but interpret them in the wrong way. Like saying like attracts like. This is basically not true. If you have a magnetic north pole, it's attracting the magnetic south pole of another magnet, not the magnetic north pole of another magnet. So, in this case, like doesn't attract like. Also, charges. If you have a positive charge and a negative charge, these two are attracting themselves. But if you have a positive and a positive charge, then the two charges, there will be a repelling force between them. So this is how reality works. And it's a pity sometimes, I think, that some really good and usable ideas in the spiritual world are a little bit deteriorated by those false claims of people who maybe want to do the best to bring those principles to other people, but if some guys hearing this, who understand a little bit of science and so on, they will be, they might say, oh well, come on, this cannot be true because the explanation is not true from the beginning. So I don't believe this, and this is a pity because there are, of course, some great ideas you could use and also they could use in their lives and making their lives better. But because of these inconsistencies, they don't feel good about using them. So sometimes these explanations don't really correspond with the content of such teachings. Backing things we don't know by science, that's perfectly okay. But we need to be consistent, and if we don't know the underlying principles, we always can say, okay, we mean it metaphoric. It's a metaphor. And then everything is okay. Then everybody knows this metaphor is just for helping understanding those principles. But it's not a valid scientific explanation. And metaphors make it easier to grasp what we mean. Many are using them, I'm using them, and when I'm explaining you some things to you, I'm also using metaphors. But we also have, we always have to be sure that we are talking on the same wavelength, that we are on the same ballpark here. And that's very important, that we are not talking about different things. Speculate, explore, be curious, but just stay honest about what's known and what's not. In the end, what matters is what helps you, what makes your life better. And there's many techniques and many ways to approach spirituality. In physics, for example, the quantum field theory, this is also nowadays, everybody talks about quantum fields, and the QFT, the quantum field theory, goes even deeper. It sees particles, for example, just as ripples in invisible fields, not like little dots jumping around. We saw them a couple of years ago. So a field ripple means there is a particle appears. But that's not how we experience reality. We don't feel like ripples, and we also don't feel like little particles, right? We feel like solid people with choices and emotions. And we are not waves, we are human. Even if in our insides, all those atoms, molecules, and so on, there's lots of waves, of course, in our body. But our feeling here is just like a solid body. And if you're just talking about those quantum stuff with solid bodies, for example, then sometimes it's getting really wild. So some spiritual beliefs say we can jump timelines. We can pick a new version of reality and slide into it. Okay, coming back to the particles, the quantum theory, the quantum mechanics and so on, this is just made up, or this is just invented for little particles. If you just, for example, do the double slit experiment, I talked about this in another video, in a former video of mine. If you do the double slit experiments and take real big double slits and billiard balls, for example, and just throw the billiard balls, or do it with a curve, but throw them at these double slits, what would you expect? Some quantum effects? Not at all. You just get the effects of the Newton mechanics, and that's all. And that's all you'll be getting. So, but coming back to this quantum jumping of persons and of me and you, picture this. If I jump into a reality where I am rich, what happens to the version of me who was rich? Did I kick them out then, in this case? What happens to them? Here's the thing. The many-world theory in science says all outcomes can happen. It could happen. But this is just possibilities, this is just things that could happen. They are not existing in this very moment. But we never, and this is also science, we never interact with those other versions. In spiritual thinking, it's more personal. It's about aligning to the version of you that's already living the lives that you want to live. So, is there another person with a consciousness and living and enjoying the life you want to have? And suddenly, you're just climbing up, let's put it this way, this is also a metaphor, you are just climbing up or just jumping up into his world, kicking him out, and now you live his life. What about this person? Is he dissolving? Is he kicked out of his realm down to your place? What happens? So, aligning with the you that has it all, that is what this is all about. Not kicking some other person out of his realm or out of his world. And if you would, or if you accept this theory of jumping into another world that is reality, and you jump there, this also could happen to you. Maybe you live in a life and say, okay, I'm not the richest here, I'm not the richest guy in town, but I'm quite content, but I would like to manifest more and more. And suddenly somebody from below comes up, jumps up into your house, into your home, kicks you out, and you find yourself somewhere else where you are not that rich and not that happy and whatever, So could this also happen? And if you're thinking of those things, you see that there's something that cannot be right with this kind of ideas, because in my world I never felt that somebody would like to kick me out of here. Maybe I'm not high enough, not rich enough, but I never felt this way. And I also, if I manifested things, I told you before about my little experience as a kid, or experiences, I never had the feeling that I would be that I would be doing some kind of quantum jumping. But the feeling you can have in this case is that suddenly your life gets better. You're doing the manifestation stuff we talked about in former videos, for example, and you're doing this over some time, and suddenly you notice, I'm feeling better now. Things are going easier. I'm attracting some stuff I would like to have. I'm attracting some material stuff. I'm attracting maybe some love, for example. I'm attracting things from there, and my life is getting better and better. Does it really matter if it is quantum jumping or not? I don't think so. It's just the result is what counts. From what we talked about here, I think it became quite clear whether all this stuff like quantum jumping and timelines and quantum theory, quantum field theory, and so on, whether you can take it literally for your life. So if maybe it's valid for billiard balls, maybe it's also valid for human beings, for human bodies, and so on. There is a chance. Maybe the many world theory can be interpreted in this way or in that way. But all this doesn't matter as much as this. Can it help you to change your mindset, your habits, and also your energy, your vibrations? And in the end, can it change your life? Can you leverage all those techniques to change your life? Because why are you doing this? You want to change the outcome. You want to change your outcome. You want to become a better person. You want to lead a better life. And this is what this is all about. If you prefer to do some rituals, for example, if you prefer to believe in the quantum jump spiritual teachings, as long as you can live with them, as long as you believe firmly in them, or also in the rituals, for example, everything will be okay for you. If you become skeptical and see, okay, there is some inconsistencies, and you heard at school that quantum theory is working in a different way that other people are telling you, then it might be, you might have a problem with it, and you might not the one who believes in those teachings, even if those teachings have a valid and a true core. Maybe the explanations are not great, but the core can still be true. And then maybe you wouldn't even try something that would work for you. So this is what this is all about. So use these ideas as metaphors, as bridges between the present self and your potential self. Just don't get stuck with arguing with physics. In the end, it's not about proving quantum theory. You can leave this to the scientists. They are just paid for this and they have fun with it. And it's a very complicated theory. So I myself wouldn't like to be the guy who has to prove it. And so I had to use this Schrödinger equation for some time when I was at university. So this was just okay, but using it all the time wouldn't be the joy of my life. But in the end, quantum theory and quantum field theory, QFT, was developed for small particles. And you are not a small particle. If I put your mass into the equation, your physical behavior could be described by the physics of Newton. And the quantum part of these equations almost vanishes. And sorry, I don't mean you are obese. This is just the principle of quantum theory. So the whole thing, the metaphors, it's about living with more clarity, with more creativity, and with more courage. Don't get discouraged by some people who are telling you some weird science stuff, and that might not be transferable one-to-one into the spiritual realm. In a way it might work and it's okay, but just take this as a metaphor and you're great. Don't get discouraged by the lack of consistencies. Because spirituality is explaining spirituality might be complicated. It is not like science sometimes, it's working, and sometimes it's not working, even if you might think, okay, I did it the same way than last time, the same way as yesterday, but still today the outcome is not the same. So it can be a little bit complicated, but in the end, the spiritual principles are also, in a way, some kind of laws, and when you follow them, if you use these laws, you can leverage them. And also explaining spirituality by scientific principles and by some science theories, like quantum field theory, this is also for some people, of course, the wish to have one theory that explains all. And that is difficult to do. Also, science is struggling very heavily to integrate the quantum theory, the quantum field theory into with the theory of gravitation. So this is also another problem, with science. So spirituality is not alone in this case. So, but the good thing is, what we have, without a theory of it all, whether in physics or in the spiritual realm, is already enough to use it. You don't have to understand gravity to use it. If you're just dropping your computer mouse right now to the ground, it will fall down, no matter what. And the manifestation stuff, the manifestations you're doing, is in a way similar. Maybe not that obviously similar, but it is similar. And you have great tools at hand to change your life. And in the end, you will wind up leading your dream life if you are just consistent and if you just do the things that needs to be done to become a better version of yourself. And of course, the more you try, the more you see that reality can be influenced by your thoughts, but also by your actions, by a combination of all of this, by your visualizations, by your affirmations, by maybe, if you like it, some rituals that you are doing. But the main thing is also by your feelings, by your positive feelings towards the outcome. So the more you try this, the more you do this, the more you see that reality is shifting for you, that reality is becoming better for you, the more confident you will become, and the faster your manifestations will be. Look at my example above. Even if I didn't do everything right, it worked. I just won this little rabbit. Okay, maybe it's not huge, it's not a huge thing to do, but maybe if you are successful with little things first, you will gain in confidence and you will see, oh, I can do this, and it's actually working. It's often the first step you're doing, and it's often the case when you see, oh, it's working. Sometimes you can grasp something in your mind. You say, yeah, well, it sounds plausible. It should work. You can grasp it, but sometimes you have to experience it. You have to see that it is working for you yourself, to really understand, to really believe that it works. And there's a little discrepancy, and this is for me also. There's lots of things I realized. I said, yes, it's logical and it sounds good, but in the moment I had some experiences, I had some success, I had some outcome, then I knew I can do this, and then I really knew it is working. So this is also valid for you. So everybody can do this. And of course, don't try to be perfect. If somebody is telling you have to do this exactly this, and this way, and if you leave out one step, and if you're not doing this or that, of course there are important steps. You don't have to be the slave of a script, and you don't have to repeat everything like it is written down there. So there's always room for error. So stay tuned for more. Hope you had fun with this video, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again in my next video. Till then, have a great time, and bye for now.